Okay, so one funny thing that you might notice in Java is that, let's say down here in Archer, we're going to type in Archer, and we're going to use code completion. I'm going to press period, or I'm going to press Control Spacebar, and it's going to give me a list of all the methods that are available on this object. Now you'll notice some of the basic ones like get weapon, strike, get name. These are all on the warrior class. Like, we made those methods. We know that they are there. But what about the rest of this stuff? Because I don't see, let's take a look. Put the cursor there, Control Spacebar. I don't see like an equals or a hash code or a toString. I don't see that stuff on here. It's like, how does this object have this method? Like I can be like, hey, get class. And compile's fine. If I control click on this method, it actually takes me to the object class. And the lesson here is that every class in Java implicitly inherits from this base java.lang.object. And by inheriting from java.lang.object, you also receive all of the methods that java.lang.object has. So for example, this, since it has an implementation of hash code, since it has an implementation of equals, and an implementation of toString, we get all those methods. So let's try this out. toString. What happens? If we run the code, you'll notice that we get this printout right here, and it's kind of funny looking. It says, well, it gives the full class path of the object, and then it actually gives the object ID in memory. So, one thing you can do with inheritance and in Java is called overriding methods. And by overriding a method, you're able to replace the functionality in the superclass with the functionality of your own. For example, let's take a look at this object class. And you'll notice that, most of these things are final. Now, a final method in Java means that you can't change it. It means you can't extend the object and override these. But look at toString. It's not final, which means we can override this method. We can replace objects toString with our own toString method. So let's give this a shot. To override a method, we just give it the same method signature. In fact, we can copy it straight out of the object class. Copy this, paste it right here. And now we can say return string.format Now most of you recognize this type of pattern in that string.format is going to replace these %s's with the variables that we pass in. And so we've given the same method signature in Warrior, and even though we're not explicitly extending object, we know that because it's Java, it automatically extends object. And so now we can see that IntelliJ tells us, hey, this does in fact override object. If we click on this little button, it takes us to the method that we're overriding. Now here is a Java convention note. Oftentimes people will annotate a method with @override. And what this does is it simply tells the compiler to make sure that we're really overriding this method, because sometimes if code changes, if the code in the superclass changes and the code below does not change, then it's no longer overriding a method, and it can cause things to break. But that using the @override annotation prevents that type of stuff from happening. So now, if we run our application again, we'll see that we will have replaced the default toString method in object with our very own exception. Okay, I goofed this up right there. And voila,